This is a special presentation of Overtime, brought to you by Bruns Gutzwiller, the right choice for your next construction project, and by FCN Bank, building stronger communities, member FDIC. And now, part 5 of the Riley Gaines series.
We reached out to all of our participants that are here. They submitted their own questions that they wanted to ask Riley Gaines. So we are gonna dive headlong into this rapid fire portion of the evening. Leon?
Okay, first one. Someone in the audience said, how do we make sure the laws are made and enforced to protect women in sports, public restrooms, etc., and which elected officials have the power to make those laws?
Yeah, this is an important question because really legislation is crucial. There are a lot of components to being effective, but legislation is certainly one of them. As I have said, local politics, state politics, they matter so much. Who's on school board, it matters so much. But ultimately, the people with the power to make these decisions at a state level are your state representatives. It is your state senators. So I would encourage every single one of you to know who these people are, to know who your district, who represents you down in the Capitol here. I never knew. I didn't know in Tennessee. I had no idea. Over Congress, the federal level, I had no idea who my state representatives or senators were. Now I do. My state senator in Tennessee, which Tennessee, right, like a very conservative state for the most part. I thought that. I really did. But I realize now that having an R by your name does not mean that you are actually on our side. My state senator, who's been an elder at my church for 15 years, a wonderful guy, he came up to me not too long ago and he said, hey, can I have your endorsement? I didn't think anything of it. Sure, I've known you a long time. I'm sure you're a great senator. Sure, you can have it. And then I was like, maybe I should have looked into that more. Upon looking into this, I was so heartbroken is how I was, really. I found out he voted to keep the pornographic books in schools. I found out that he was actually the author of our gender-affirming care bill in Tennessee. He's a pharmacist, but he put a clause in there that no one read that said something to the effect of Tanner 1 stage development. I'm like, what is this? I look it up. It's a clause that allows for children as young as 9 years old to transition in the state of Tennessee. He was receiving money from pharmaceutical companies and hospitals that encouraged him to add this little blurb in there. I found out that he voted there was a vote to make the Bible Tennessee state book. As an elder at my church, he was one of few Republicans who voted no on this. So I called him immediately and I said, you cannot have my endorsement anymore. I actually have endorsed your opponent at this point. And I did, I really did. This conversation needs to be handled with grace and truth, a balance of those things. But we have to have the conversation, so.
You spoke on this earlier, talking about the Biden administration's changes to Title IX, which would allow men to compete legally in women's sports. Several states, of course, sued to stop this from happening. And politically, though, how do you see this being stopped? Is it something that'll be handled by the Supreme Court or states just ignoring the change?
I think this will go all the way to the Supreme Court. I hope it does. We have seen strong rulings in the district courts, which have been hopeful. So I think this will go to the Supreme Court. There's a couple cases right now which I think will have a good chance. One case in West Virginia, one case in Connecticut. Actually, our lawsuit with the NCAA has actually a fairly good chance of making it to that level, which is good news because I do believe that the Supreme Court would rule in our favor. Mentioning Title IX, we've talked about it many times, but again, just to put into perspective what the Biden administration has done. Okay, Title IX was enacted in 1972, so 52 years ago. And its original intent, it was only 37 words, a very brief little paragraph, piece of legislation that, it was pretty broad, but most notable, one word being activity, which allowed Title IX to be what it's most notable for, which is equal opportunity in sports. and any educational program that receives federal funding. What the Biden administration has done, they've taken this 37 words, rewrote it, created a new proposal that's 500,000 words from 37. That should tell you everything that you need to know. Now, 1,577 pages long. But ultimately, what this rewrite has done is equate sex with gender identity. Says that they're the same thing, that they're interchangeable. Those words are synonymous even. So there are no more sex-based protections. Men can take academic and athletic scholarships from women. Men have full access to bathrooms, locker rooms, changing spaces on college campuses, but not just college campuses. Again, YMCAs, any place that receives federal funding, prisons. Men would be housed in dorm rooms with women. Your speech would be compelled. So if you, a professor or a student or a coach, if you don't use the preferred pronouns, under this new rewrite, you would be guilty and charged with sexual harassment. No, not the man parading around your locker room. No, to President Biden, that's considered brave. He said many times, these are the most brave and inspiring people I've ever met. But you calling a spade is grounds for sexual harassment. Even daring to question this that's what the Biden administration has done. So yes, all that to say, I do hope this goes to the Supreme Court. I think it will, and I think we'll be successful.
All right, so I'm gonna ask the question. I think I know this answer. Who do you hope to see as the next president of the United States, and why?
Now I know this is like not some sort of C3 thing. Donald J. Trump, duh. Yeah.
Okay, why?
A couple reasons. Obviously, this issue is very important to me, but as we all are well aware now, there are other looming issues that are negatively affecting this country at the hands of who is in the White House right now. President Trump has said that he will, on day one, reverse what Joe Biden has done to Title IX, which is huge. My husband, as I said, he's an immigrant, an illegal alien. But we've been married 2 years, and so another important issue to me is the border, because even being married 2 years, he doesn't have his green card yet. Yet I could probably buy him a plane ticket to Mexico. He could walk across the border and be issued his citizenship, as well as a gift card with $10,000 on it, or a little credit card. That sounds awesome. Maybe we should do that. So that's, I think, an important one. Obviously, inflation, that's always a big one. And we're seeing right now from Democrats and their operatives on social media. I've seen so many recently. They say crime is at an all-time low in big cities. They say inflation is the lowest it's been in years. Or they'll say, we saw today, everyone I'm sure has seen the video of President Biden on stage, and Obama has to literally walk him back, and they're saying that video is manipulated. It's a fake video. It's not real. That's AI. That's what our wonderful press secretary said today in her press conference, is that video is just manipulated. That's not real. They're altering reality, which is concerning. So I think there's a lot of issues at hand that ultimately make me feel inclined to vote for President Trump.
All right, we'll rapid fire these next three because I think they've been asked and answered. We talked about how busy you are. The goal of the Riley Gaines Center, we talked about that. We talked about what you're most proud of. Here we go. This is a new one. What would you say is your ultimate goal?
Ooh, my ultimate goal, big picture, obviously is to prevent any girl, any body, any human, from feeling exploited in the way that we were, for being discriminated against on the basis of their sex in the way that we were. Ultimate goal is no men in women's spaces at all. No, not any space where is entitled solely for women. Again, prisons, domestic violence shelters, bathrooms, locker rooms, sports, of course, all of these spaces that have been infiltrated by men. Even in this state, there are men in women's prisons. So that's the ultimate goal. Of course, I am someone who is is self-aware, socially aware with what's going on, and that's lofty when we have states like California. But that's the ultimate goal, and fighting every day to ensure that happens.
Sure.
So we'll see.
Okay, we got a fun one for you. What are the 3 songs you play on repeat these days?
3 songs. Oh gosh. Okay, so that was the only thing distracting me today from the air conditioning not working. It was my songs that were on repeat. We listen to a lot of country music, being from Nashville. So love Cody Johnson. I love Riley Green. If anyone knows Riley Green, he's really cute. He's really cute. That helps. So I love him. Luke Combs. Those are probably my favorite, like, country artists. Yeah, country mostly.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see. We got some more already asked and answered. We talked about what's next. Okay, here's a good one. Do you have a favorite quote that speaks to you?
A favorite quote. I mentioned my favorite Bible verse. Something that I do think about a lot. Again, another kind of lesson that my dad taught me. I'd call him all the time in college, and I would just really want to vent. Like, I would just want to have someone throw a pity party for me, to be honest with you. I'm like, life is hard, work or practices are hard, school is hard, and he never entertained it for even a second. And he'd always tell me, just keep chopping wood, keep chopping wood. And so that's something that even now I think about when I'm feeling overwhelmed, or I'm feeling stressed, or just tired or anxious or whatever. I just think, keep chopping wood in this little country accent. And again, it applies to more than just my sport, which is why I find it constantly in my mind. Yeah.
It's a good one.
Okay. So, last question of the night. Okay. When people hear the name Riley Gaines, what do you want them to think?
Oh, I think, again, first and foremost, is someone that embodies Christ and his message, because that's why we're here on this planet, on this earth, is to spread his message. And I know it can get kind of convoluted in this topic, because, again, you can be labeled as hateful. You can be labeled as things that aren't very Christ-like. But again, while we have a God who loves everyone, of course he does, we have a God who hates sin. And the Bible is very clear in saying that he created male and female intentionally and uniquely in his perfect image. And so it's our job to hold people accountable as Christians. And so, again, in a way that can balance grace and truth, that's what our Savior did so well, is he balanced those two things. And you think of accounts in the Bible, like in John, where the woman who was committed of adultery, Jesus, it was punishable by law. She was to be stoned. And Jesus says, well, those without sin cast the first stone. And they're kind of all like, well, we're all sinners. And that was Christ's perfect display of grace, right? That's him leading with grace. But after that, landing with the truth and telling the woman, now go and sin no more. We saw the Super Bowl commercial this past year. I think it was called He Gets Us or something. And it depicted, instances of people washing the feet of sinners, right? People outside abortion clinics, or people who were trans or whatever. Which, again, that's very true. That's how we should be. But what that commercial left out, and again, what the Bible doesn't, is landing with the truth and saying, now go and sin no more. That's the accountability piece that we're lacking as a society as a whole. And so that's what I want people to see in me more than anything else. I want to be seen as a leader. I want to be seen as someone who is able to think for themselves, who is able to admit when I'm wrong. I think that's another thing that's wrong with society, certainly on both sides, is we don't have people who are willing to man up and say, okay, sorry, I was wrong. I want to be that person. So I think those, more than an athlete, more than athletic achievements, that's how I wish people would view me and how I live my life.
Ladies and gentlemen, Riley Gaines.